Hey everyone, it's Mr. Oda. In today's video lesson, we're going to be talking about topic 4.6, watersheds. Now, this is probably a term that you have not used before, so we're going to go through it step by step. And our goal for today is to be able to describe the characteristics of a watershed, and we're also going to be seeing how humans can have an impact on these areas. Now, to start out, we need to first define what a watershed is. And a watershed is basically any area that drains into a body of water. So every body of water that you've seen, a lake, an ocean, has a watershed where water gets refilled. This is usually defined by the highest point where rainfall hits and then flows down. This will flow down through tributaries and rivers and meets at a delta, or it can go into groundwater. Now, when you see rainfall hitting an area like this, a watershed, it can do one of two things. It can either run downhill along the land until it joins a river, or it can percolate through the soil to join groundwater. Now, we're going to look at two different examples of watersheds, and the things that affect a watershed, the characteristics of it are the area, how large it is, the type of vegetation, the type of soil that supports that vegetation, and the slope of the watershed. So as you'll see here in this image, a couple of things here. We have a lot of vegetation here. The area is very wide open, but also the slope, the slope is much larger, much greater, so water will flow down this watershed a lot faster. Now compare this to the one on the next slide. Even though this might not look like it from our cartoon images, this is also a watershed because it is a source of water that's refilled. And so you have a much wider plain, a much lower slope, and different types of vegetation here. But again, this is an example of a watershed. The big thing to take away from this is that as our sources of water are refilled from watersheds, we can have a huge impact on the water quality. And there's a couple different things that we do that affect this. Some examples of this could be cutting down trees. What happens from that is that we allow soil to run off and it could pollute our water with sediments. We can also have our residential and city areas. When we create sidewalk, streets, and other things made out of concrete, these are impermeable surfaces, meaning that the water can't go through it. Instead, it flows and runs off, which will carry with it the pollution from these urban areas. Also, industries that are very close to water sources can cause pollution, as well as farmland and livestock. The use of pesticides, fertilizers, and even just animal waste can run off into the water source and pollute it. And one other thing that is not talked about as much is the use of dams. If you've ever seen a dam, it is a structure that blocks the flow of water. And what can actually happen is when humans create these things, it can actually block sediments and nutrients from going further down river or downstream. So something like this will block the essential nutrients that animals need over down here. And again, this is just the same image showing you the different impacts that humans can have on a watershed or a source of water: logging, residential and city, industrial, livestock, and creating dams. Now, when you think about this, think about how you plan around building human settlements around a watershed. For these practice questions, a team at a university in Pennsylvania has concerns about the health of streams in a watershed because of the various land uses in that area. There has been an increase in road repair work, and the area has many dairy farms. Which of the following would most effective at preventing sediment runoff into the streams of the watershed? Read the answer choices yourself. And for the second question, an urban planner wants to design a city to be built within a watershed. Which of the following best describes why they should carefully consider the characteristics of the watershed before creating the city's overall design? Now, for both these questions, when you think about this, you want to think about maintaining vegetation to help with soil erosion and overall pollution. So for the first question, you want to maintain zones of grass at least 100 meters wide. And for the second question, stormwater runoff related to sidewalks and streets will transition into the river. So mitigation vegetation would be included in the plan. So when you're thinking about designing a city around an area that has a watershed, you want to prevent pollution in whatever way you can. And one way to do that is to increase the amount of plant life there. I hope you got a lot of information from this video lesson. If you have any questions, please ask them in class, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.